Hey guys, how's it going? It's Andy from Magoo Investing. Happy Tuesday. I wanted to talk today about a group of ETFs that have been catching my attention recently because they've been talked a lot on my videos, which is pretty unusual. When I think about ETFs, I don't normally think of the younger generation of investors being really interested by them, just because they're not as exciting, they're more reliable, but they have more long-term goals than picking individual stocks. And with the stocks that have done well in 2020, none of them can be really described as safe and reliable. So today I want to talk about Cathie Wood and the ARK ETFs because they've been getting a lot of attention as they were some of the top performing ETFs overall. And they caught my attention because I think they're really interesting in what they're focused on. So in today's video, I'm going to explain what the ARK ETFs are. I'm going to do a breakdown of what each of the 5 ETFs focus on. And then towards the end of the video, I'm going to rank them by how I think they're going to perform in 2020, in addition to which ones I like the most. And then I'm going to talk about who would benefit from investing in these type of stocks, because there's definitely a target demographic, and this isn't something that everyone should be investing in. But before we get started, I have to say that I'm not a licensed financial advisor, and this is not financial advice. Anything you hear in this video is just me giving my own opinions on the stock market, and you need to do your own research before making any investment decisions. Also, if you've been enjoying these videos, really appreciate it with a like and subscribe button, as it would help my channel out a lot. So ETFs have been around for a long time, and there are some really great ones out there. They normally follow some sectors or indices, and it's usually a way to track a group of stocks or maybe a commodity like gold. And so there's a lot of very interesting ETFs out there, but the ARK group of ETFs focuses primarily on innovation, which is not something you see with a lot of other ETFs. They focus on mainly sectors, and innovation isn't one of the 11 stock market sectors, but I think it does have a place in a lot of portfolios because innovation are these stocks that are going to be doing incredibly well in the future and get people really excited about the products that they're producing. So the founder, Cathie Wood, has been around for a long time. In 2001, she was a chief investment officer at AllianceBernstein, and then she left to found ARK Investment Management. And she's been one of the loudest bulls when it comes to a lot of the innovative areas out there. She said back in 2017 that she thought that Bitcoin was a bigger idea than Apple, but her most famous quote comes with Tesla, ticker TSLA. So here's what the all-time chart looks like from Tesla with the crazy run that we've seen in 2020. But looking at the 5-year chart and before the crazy increase in price in the last 12 months, you can see that the stock was not doing very well. She went on TV multiple times in 2019 talking about how bullish she was on Tesla, and she set a price target of $4,000. This is back in 2019, where Tesla shares are trading for around $200 at that point. And then in early 2020, she raised her price target up to $6,000. So she is someone that has been very bullish on some of the most innovative investment areas that you can possibly find. So you have Bitcoin, you have Tesla, which have both done extremely well in 2020. And their tagline for the ARK active ETFs is invest in the highest growth potential companies of our generation. And with 5 out of the top 10 ETFs of 2020 being ARK ETFs, I think they're pretty good at what they set out to do. Since 2014, when they were created, ARK ETFs have returned a range of 19% to 35% on an annualized return basis, compared to the overall S&P 500 that's returned 11% on that basis. So they've seen explosive growth in 2020, and they took in almost $7 billion in new assets in December, which is the third most out of any of the ETF groups, behind the giants of Vanguard and BlackRock. So these are a group of ETFs that have become extremely popular in 2020, and all of them have doubled so far in 2020. So now I want to talk about all 5 of the ARK ETFs because they are slightly different. And I want to talk about what they focus primarily on, just so you have an idea of how they are different from each other. So the largest of their ETFs and their flagship product is ARKK, ARKK, which is their General Innovation ETF. So far in 2020, ARKK is up 163%. And looking at their top 10 holdings, you can see some of my favorites in there with Roku, Square, and Teladoc. But the largest of their shares is 10%, which is Tesla, and we all know how incredible of a run so far they've had in 2020. Next, they have the Next Generation Internet ETF with ARKW. They say that ARKW gives exposure to next generation internet, including AI, big data, cloud computing, cybersecurity, and blockchain technology. And in 2020, ARKW is up 158%. Looking at their holdings, you're going to see a lot of similarities with their top 10, including Tesla, Roku, Square, and Teladoc. But they do have some Bitcoin, Spotify, Facebook, and Pinterest. So when you see these stocks, they do have a significant amount of overlap. A lot of these ETFs do include some of their favorites in Tesla. When it makes sense. Tesla has done incredibly well, and Tesla definitely is an innovator, so it makes sense there. The third in this video is going to be the Autonomous Tech and Robotics ETF, which is ARKQ. They give exposure to autonomous vehicles, energy storage, robotics, automation, 3D printing, and space exploration. And in 2020, this ETF has returned 106%. This one has the highest weighting of Tesla stock so far with 12%. And there's some interesting ones with Google and their parent company Alphabet, and then JD.com, which has been working with robotics and automated driving, which is very interesting. And the fourth is going to be ARKG, which is all about genomics. It gives exposure to CRISPR, which is a technology to edit genes. It also gives exposure to gene editing, therapeutics, agriculture biology, and healthcare innovation. In 2020, ARKG has had a huge year and has been up 209% overall. Looking at their top 10 holdings, besides CRISPR Therapeutics, ticker symbol CRSP, and Teladoc, I know very little about these stocks. But as I talk about later in this video, I don't think that that's actually a bad thing. And then the fifth and most recent ETF that they started, which was created in early 2019, is ARK Fintech Innovation, ticker symbol ARKF. ARKF gives exposure to fintech innovations, including mobile payments, digital wallets, peer-to-peer lending, blockchain technology, risk transformation. And ARKF in 2020 has returned 106%. And looking at their top 10 holdings, they have some of my favorites with Square, PayPal, and Pinterest. So it's pretty easy to see that a lot of these ETFs do have significant overlap. But I do think that that's a really good thing. It's very easy to take a very general approach and maybe add like 100 stocks to your overall portfolios. But the whole reason that the ARK ETFs I think have been so successful is that they're very specialized. And so each of these ETFs only have 30 to 55 holdings, which is very small compared to most of the other ETFs that you could buy out there. And so what this does is they're doing all the research and they're coming up with only their best stocks to include on these ETFs. And I absolutely love that. So who are these ETFs targeted at? And the answer is not really straightforward. I think these are more focused on the younger generation that wants to be investing in something that's innovative and exciting. But this is also for someone that doesn't have to worry about picking the individual stocks in an industry that maybe they don't fully understand. And since it's a single stock, you don't have to worry about buying individual shares of the company or buying partial shares and having to decide what percentage of your portfolio is split up into these different stocks. And based on their track record and the leadership of Cathie Wood, I'm going to give all 5 of these ETFs a big thumbs up. And now I want to rank them on which ones I like the most, because obviously there's 5 of them. They've done very well with a range of 106% to 200% returns in 2020. And so the first one that I'm going to pick is going to be their flagship ETF with ARKK. It's the most diversified out of all their ETFs and probably the safest in my opinion, but still gives plenty of exposure to innovation, and I love that. Number 2 might surprise you a little bit. I'm going to go with ARKG with genomics. And the whole reason about this is that they're investing in a sector that I don't fully understand. And so one of the benefits of these ETFs is that they've done all the research on the companies in their ETF. And so based off of their track record, I trust them to pick great stocks. And so this is an area that I want to be invested in, but I don't fully understand the industry and I don't know the names that are on these lists. So being able to invest into an ETF that has already done the research is very attractive to me. Next, I'm going to go with ARKF, which is the fintech-focused ETF. I think we're already seeing the switch to digital currencies and more peer-to-peer transactions, and that's very exciting. If it had more Bitcoin exposure in there, I'd be more excited about it. Number 4, I'm going to put ARKW, which is the next-gen internet. No, this doesn't mean that I think it's going to do poorly in 2021. It's just mainly, it's like the complete opposite of my genomics reasoning, is that I understand most of these stocks in this industry, and so I feel confident picking my own stocks. And so I think this is probably going to be doing pretty well because the tech and innovation for the internet stuff has been doing very well recently. But I do feel confident enough to pick my own shares that I don't feel the need to buy into an ETF like this. And then finally, I'm going to put ARKQ with autonomous tech and robotics. I think it's some very cool technology, but it's not something that really excites me and wants me to put my money behind it. So I think it'll probably do fine. It just doesn't excite me like the other 4 do. And so I'd love to hear how you guys would rank these ETFs, and I'd love to hear if you've ever considered buying the ARK ETFs, and if you had to pick one, which one would you buy? In the next video, which is going to come out tomorrow, I'm going to give my own kind of ARK portfolio, where I'm going to come up with my 10 favorite innovative stocks, put them into a portfolio, and then during parts of 2021, I'm going to go back and compare and see if I can outperform these ETFs, because they have done very well. And the whole point of someone like myself picking individual stocks is that I'm trying to outperform the overall market. And so Cathie Wood has created these incredible ARK ETFs that have returned between like 18 and 35% on an annualized basis. So that's very impressive, and I want to see if I can beat that. So I'm going to pick my 10 favorite innovative stocks, and I'm going to talk about them in tomorrow's video. So thanks for watching this video. I appreciate all the support, and I will see you in the next episode.